So I went into Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City thinking it was just going to be a shambling corpse of the Resident Evil franchise, but let me tell you, it's actually pretty fun. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, the new, reboot of the Resident Evil franchise that just came to theaters on November 24, 2021. Now, I went in not expecting much because I don't know, the movie didn't really get a ton of fanfare. It was a cold open, which means they didn't send screeners to everyone, which is usually not a great sign. And I mean, Resident Evil has kind of been done in movie form, but let me tell you, it was actually pretty good. Like, it wasn't a great movie, but it was a really good Resident Evil movie. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. If you're a fan of the franchise or a fan of the series, if you played the games, you are going to like this movie a lot because it's kind of a true return to form. This movie is much closer to the video games. It's got all your favorite characters, got all the things you love about the series, and it's pretty entertaining too. So my hot take is, if you like Resident Evil or if you just like video games in general, you should probably go see this. It's much better than I thought it was going to be. It really sticks close to the games, especially Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. It's got the characters you love and in situations that mirror the events in these games, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the film, a few things I liked about it, a few things I didn't like, and then I'm going to go to the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers. If you don't want to know anything about the film, if you don't want to know what happens, go watch it. It's in theaters right now, and then come back and let's talk more. But if you play Resident Evil 1 and 2, you'll already have a general sense of what happens in this movie. So that being said, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is a reboot of the franchise. It kind of wipes the slate clean. It starts from a fresh palette, and it really follows the video games. It really is kind of Resident Evil 1 and 2 combined. It kind of starts with a Resident Evil 2 style setup, and then it goes into Resident Evil 1, and then it finishes in kind of somewhere in between. So in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, you have Claire Redfield returning to Raccoon City after being gone for a while. She is coming home, and as you would expect, if you're going to Raccoon City, things aren't great. The town is kind of run down. Umbrella Corporation used to have Raccoon City as its headquarters, but it has since moved, and the town has fallen into hard times. And on top of that, you've got some strange happenings. You've got some people that maybe are acting a little weird. You've got some people who have blood coming out of their eyes and are maybe shambling around. I don't know what could be happening. So Claire comes back and meets up with her brother, Chris Redfield. And Chris is a member of the Raccoon Police Department, along with some of your favorite people. You got Jill Valentine, you've got Albert Wesker, you've got Leon Kennedy. They are all here in Raccoon City trying to keep the peace. But as you expect in a Resident Evil movie based in Raccoon City, the peace doesn't keep and stuff goes down. And as stuff goes down, you have your favorite characters in situations that you love, shooting zombies, being scared. It's pretty entertaining. So things I loved about this film. The first is the cast. I was surprised about this cast. I actually kind of independently like all the actors in this movie. They've all been in other films and done really great jobs. And then now they get to play some of my favorite video game characters. It was a good collection of actors, and they all had kind of rough approximations of the characters in the video games. Some of them didn't look exactly right. I mean, Robbie Amell was good as Chris, but he wasn't as buff as I expected. Maybe later in the franchise, he'll go through his like Chris steroids phase. And Avan Jogia, I think I said his name right, plays Leon Kennedy. He didn't look like Leon, but I think he did a good job. And I like Avan a lot. I saw him earlier in a movie called The Exchange. He's a fantastic actor, and he does a good job with Leon. Leon is a different character in this film than I think he will be later on. But overall, I really did like this cast. Neal McDonough as William Birkin, really good. I love Neal McDonough, and he did a really good job here. He does a good, he plays a really great kind of like overly nice person that will probably do something terrible. It's pretty great. So overall, it's a really good cast playing characters that I loved. The second thing I loved about this film is it is more of kind of a horror film. I was expecting a Resident Evil movie to be a little more action oriented, but this film is more, it's like through and through a horror film. It starts off slowly. It's got a lot of kind of tension and a few jump scares. It has a lot of situations where you kind of expect something bad to happen, and then sometimes something does, sometimes something doesn't. It really kind of leans on the horror side of this franchise and in this movie to really give you a solid horror experience, especially at the start. When things start to go south, it turns into more of an action film. But for a good, I don't know, two-thirds, half of the movie, it is more of a horror film. And it also has some horror type tropes. Like I love that it had some scenes where you would zoom in on characters that thought they were being watched, and they'd zoom into like dark areas of the screen, kind of picking out if you thought that someone was going to be there. Yeah, it had a lot of kind of hints of the chaos that was going to happen. You had people that were maybe acting a little strange. You had people that maybe started bleeding from weird places. And overall, it just had a really good, tense, slow buildup. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting this to be a legit horror film on top of a Resident Evil movie. I thought it would be kind of a Resident Evil movie in name, and then it would just turn to an action film. So I was pleasantly surprised about that, which also leads me to my third thing. A Resident Evil movie that is more of a horror movie feels closer to the games than I was expecting. And the third thing I loved about this film is it's much closer to the games. Like this movie has a lot of the video game tropes that you expect for Resident Evil. You had pretty much Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 mashed up in this film. And so you got like the mansion in Resident Evil 1. You have a mansion that the team goes to, and then all hell breaks loose. You have the RCPD and Leon Kennedy as a rookie in the RCPD, and Raccoon City going down. You have plenty of Umbrella references, and I really love seeing kind of the Umbrella propaganda. I thought that was a clever touch. You got the Umbrella logo, then you had signs showing like Umbrella trying to show how good of a company it was in the midst of this town that is like in utter decay. But on top of all of that, you have plenty of scenes that were recreated from the games. I really appreciate it. You have like a truck driver who's driving, and then he hits something, you know, what looks like a person, and then oh, that thing just like disappears. You have like infected dogs. You have that opening scene from, I think it's Resident Evil 1, where they're going through the mansion and they first run into a zombie, and it's like they come in from behind and the zombie is like eating a person, and then they turn and you see like how messed up it is. You also have a truck that like slides in and blows up and kind of starts the chaos in Raccoon City. So you have a lot of the scenes that you would expect, and I'm sure there's more for people that remember the games better. I haven't played the games in a very long time, but there's enough there that I recognize scenes from the video game in the movie, and I loved that. So things I didn't love, but again, none of these were really super negatives, although you know I'm kind of a fan of the series, so I think I'm viewing everything through like umbrella tinted glasses. But here are the things I didn't love. The first is, I mean, there's some bad writing overall. I mean, it's a pretty decently written film. There's some bad writing, but I also wasn't sure if maybe that was callbacks to Resident Evil, because Resident Evil doesn't have the best writing. It's a fun game, love the franchise, writing not so great. So you know, maybe that is actually a plus. Maybe that is this film being close to the games. But there's some characters that aren't really well written. I think it was more in the early part. There was a truck driver that I didn't really like, that had some pretty bad lines. But overall, you know, it wasn't as sharp as I was expecting. But again, I think that might be similar to the actual franchise. The second thing I didn't love is there were some climactic fights, but they didn't feel climactic enough. The fights didn't last as long as I expected. They resolved themselves a little too quickly and a little too conveniently. I wanted something a little bit more intense, a little bit more drawn out, especially because you're waiting for these things to happen. You're waiting for this big, evolved, creepy monster to come in, and then they have like a long drawn out fight, and then you just don't get that in this film. And you'll find out more in the ending what I mean. But overall, I thought the climactic fights could have been done a little better. And the last thing I didn't love, and this is kind of a minor point, I wanted some more Resident Evil in it. I mean, I love that this film had plenty of Resident Evil references, but I wanted them to go a little further, and that could just be, you know, a fan wanting something that is probably wouldn't be good in the movie, but it would be great to see. So an example, I wanted more puzzles. There was one puzzle that opened the door where they had to play like a piano song. But I wanted something crazy like in Resident Evil 2. Like I wanted them to open some to escape the Raccoon City Police Department. They had to get like a gem from one side of the police building and put it in the statue's eye, and then get a gem from like the complete opposite side of the police building and put it in the statue's eye, and then a door would open, and then they would be comment like, "This is the worst police department ever. Like, how do you ever get around?" Like something like that would have been fun. Additionally, like would have been nice if there were like it was like a typewriter reference. Like maybe there could have been someone saying like, "Oh, we should write something down in case we need to learn," and someone saying like, "Well, why would we do that?" Like it would have been nice if they used like herbs or medical spray to heal, just like little things like that to really drive home the Resident Evil side of things. I understand why they didn't. I mean, some of that stuff is very video gamey, but I thought it would have been fun to have a little bit more. That being said, this movie already had more Resident Evil than I was expecting. So I guess I can live with it, but I just wish they would have gone a little bit further. So now I'm going to talk about the ending. As you imagine, there will be spoilers in this. If you don't want to know what happens, turn it off now. So after the Raccoon City Police Department kind of just gets overrun, essentially they put down the gates, they try to stop everyone. The team goes to the Spencer Mansion, and when they're there, they kind of split up into two groups. You got Claire and Leon, Jill and Chris. Wesker kind of goes off on his own. Then they find the zombies and all hell breaks loose. So meanwhile, you've got Dr. Birkin, who was notified earlier that something was going down and that they had to leave Raccoon City. So he is at the Spencer Mansion trying to get like the vials of, I assume, the T virus or whatever. I don't think they ever called it the T virus, but it's vials of, I assume, the T virus. He's trying to get those out safely with his family. His family's there, but he's trying to get these before he leaves. While he's doing that, Wesker appears, and Wesker's been acting weird. He got like a text earlier saying, to check his locker, and in his locker there was a Palm Pilot, which I thought was a very clever touch, like an old school Palm Pilot. I was very happy. I was a little surprised it wasn't like a Sony device. This is a Sony movie, but it's fine. And in the Palm Pilot, there's instructions on what he has to do. So Wesker started acting strangely after that. And now while Birkin is trying to get the vials in, I think, the basement of the Spencer Mansion, Wesker shows up. And he tries to get the vials from Birkin. Eventually, he ends up shooting Birkin and Birkin's wife, but Wesker also gets shot during this. He has a gun trained on Birkin's daughter, his young daughter. I don't know her age, but she's like maybe 10. And she has a gun on him. And it looks like they're maybe about to have something terrible happen, but then Wesker gets shot again. And then you see Jill Valentine show up. She shot Wesker to prevent him from shooting the kid. And after Wesker gets shot, he kind of like comes to from whatever he was doing. He tells Jill, "You have to get out. This town is doomed." Something like that, something along those lines. Like tells Jill that they have to get out of there. So Jill, comforts the daughter. And you notice that one of the T virus vials is gone, and you see that the doctor has injected himself. So he starts to transform into your Resident Evil type thing. His arm like mutates and like grows really large, and then I think some eyeballs show up on his shoulder and whatnot. Like he definitely transforms into some sort of monster. And while he's doing that, Chris appears to help fight. And so Chris and Jill take down Dr. Birkin as this like shambling monster thing. So after they take him down, they take his daughter and they all head to I guess the underground railroad that is underneath the Spencer Mansion. They realize they have to get out of town because Wesker told them. They know the town's going to blow up soon. So they all get to the underground railroad to get out. And they're all there. I don't remember exactly how they all met up, but they're all there. You've got Claire, you've got Jill, you've got Chris, Leon, and Birkin's daughter. So they all get in the train. Luckily, it starts up and they start moving. Like, oh, okay, great. Everything is fine. Everything is good. We're going to get out of here. No problem. Unfortunately, they get to the train at like 5:55. And that was a nice touch throughout the movie. It had like screens that showed the time, which is nice throwback to the Resident Evil games. And also kind of helped you keep track of everything that's going on. But they get to the train, start up at like 5:55. The town's going to blow up at 6. So they're moving, but they don't move fast enough. And at 6, the town starts to blow up. And it seems to be centered on the Spencer Mansion, because the Spencer Mansion essentially collapses. And when this happens, there's a shock wave that comes out, like wave of dust and wave of, I guess, force from the mansion collapsing that hits the train and kind of stops it. I don't know if it derailed the train. It didn't like slide or anything, but the train gets hit and it just stops. So like, okay, well, at least they're out. They're fine. Except you start to hear something, around the train. And then you see like the roof get ripped off and Birkin is there, except he's like fully transformed. This is like a real Resident Evil monster transformation. He has like a lizard skull face. He's like yoked up and his actual face is in his chest. So it looks very much like a Resident Evil monster. And he grabs Jill, and they start to fight him. And when Jill gets close to his face, Jill grabs a knife and just stabs him in the face. And so he throws Jill, and then all of a sudden Leon appears with a rocket launcher, which I thought was silly, but hey, it's Resident Evil, it's fine. And he shoots the rocket launcher at Birkin, the Birkin monster, and blows him up, and half the train as well with it. There's a funny scene because I think Claire or Chris was like, a rocket launcher? And Leon was like, yeah, I was in first class. So that's resolved. Then this is what I thought. I thought this could been a little bit bigger fight scene. Like I thought they could have fought him a little longer, maybe had a couple more aspects of the fight. And maybe they shot like one thing and then that like caused another arm to come out. Like it resolved a little too quickly because he basically pulls off the train, grabs Jill, she stabs him, and then Leon shoots him with a rocket launcher. And that also is the same with the first Birkin fight. I thought that resolved a little too quickly too. It lasted maybe like a couple minutes. So I wish that those fights were a little bit more climactic, just because that's the big payoff. That's what you're waiting for in Resident Evil, and they just were over like that. So they survive. You see the town kind of blow up. There's another scene where a shockwave destroys another part of the town, but eventually it pans to like a cave or like a mine shaft, and you see everyone leaving, and you've got all the people that were there. You had Leon, Claire, Chris, Jill, and Birkin's daughter. They all survive, they all escape, and everything's good. And then that's the end. Boom. Resident Evil, welcome to Raccoon City. Or is it? There's a stinger partway through the credits where you see like a body bag, and the body bag sits up and it unzips itself, and you have Wesker, who you thought was dead, but he survived. And with him there's an Asian lady. Who could she be? I think we all know who. Wesker basically says like, I thought I was dead. And she says, you were. And Wesker's like, I can't see, like something's going on with his eyes. And she's like, that's a byproduct of being brought back to life. So she gives him some sunglasses. Wesker puts on the sunglasses, and there's the Wesker you know and love with his sunglasses. And before she leaves, he's like, who are you? And she says, I'm Ada Wong. So there you go. Ada Wong is there too. Or I let out an audible yell when I saw her because I was very excited to have like the entire cast of Resident Evil back. And that's the end of that scene. There's nothing at the end of the credits, so you can leave after that. But something I really liked is that shows that there's going to be more in this franchise. They clearly are going to add more characters. I hope that they keep going through the games and keep making movies like that, because it'd be fun to kind of follow the games with the movies. And overall, I'm pretty excited. Like, I think that this was a fun movie. I liked that it followed the games. I like that it had all the characters that I know and love. And overall, I think this is a good return to form for Resident Evil. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm a little surprised that they didn't market it more, but I think they know their core audience, and they know that who's going to go see this and who's going to like it. I didn't think it was like a great movie, but it was a really good Resident Evil film. And so if you like the franchise, definitely go check it out. You'll be very excited. So that is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. It's in theaters November 24, 2021. And thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And please check out my other content. I've got other movie reviews, interviews, unboxing videos, and weekly movie recommendations. So thank you.